Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night to our lecturers, namely Miss Utut Kurniati and my friends. Introduce myself, my name is Hilda Aulia from class 1A and my NPM 121060024. On this occasion, I will give a presentation about the Elizabethan period. The Elizabethan period is also known as the Renaissance period in English literature. Therefore, to understand it, we need to get a glimpse of what the Renaissance really was. The Renaissance first emerged in Italy in the 14th century and then spread to the north towards the end of the 15th and 16th centuries. In a broad sense, the Renaissance was the beginning of the opening of the human mind of Western Europe and the gradual disappearance of the folk that seemed to overwhelm the thought in the Middle Ages. It should be noted that in the Middle Ages, Western European humans, Western European humans move only within narrow limits, both physically and mentally. The world is nothing more than the lands on its continents and a small part of Asia and Africa. Likewise, his mind only moved within the limits set by the graduation and the courage at that time. Its culture, too, is largely not made up of things that he himself discovered, but of principles and traditions that have been determined primarily by the currents. The Renaissance greatly broke the above institutions. At first, knowledge came from the Arabs, who began to reveal the folk that covered the minds of the people Western Europe. Then began a flood of works by classical Greek poets and philosophers, revealing a world of literature and philosophy which they had never been before and which they felt suited their tastes. So there was great interest in everything that came from ancient Greece, in art in general. Classical Greek works are used as examples. In literature in particular, interest in classical Greek works gave rise to the so-called humanism, which is an understanding which believes that the study of human readings. In this case, the classical works is more beneficial to human interests in general than the study of obsolete theology. The Renaissance changed the attitude and mentality of Western European people. the authority of the church and tradition, which controls almost all aspects of human life, was replaced by the authority of science. The nature of accepting what has been determined by the church and tradition is replaced with a spirit of self-discovery. Thus, the characteristic of the Renaissance people are free, spirited, individualistic, realistic, courageous in trying, eager to discovering new things, and learning towards secularism. During the reign of Queen Elizabeth I, the spirit and spirit of the Renaissance, as described above, was increasingly felt in England. It was marked by patriotism, religious tolerance, social calm, intellectual progress, and great passion. All of this is reflected in the literature of that era, which experienced a golden age like no other in British history. The most appropriate expression of the soul for the period that combines thoughts, feelings, and actions is drama. Of all the literary outputs of the Elizabethan era, drama progressed the most rapidly and culminated in the works of Shakespeare. In addition, this era produced a large number of works of poetry, diverse and of high quality. Elizabethan poetry has a phrase and romantic tone, which is more following the voice of the heart. Type both in drama and in poetry. Classical influences are also felt in Italy, but this outside influence is balanced by the soul, increasingly stable national performance, caused by achievements in all fields that have been achieved by the British in the Elizabethan age. In English history, the Elizabethan age includes the beginning of the modern English period. Synthetic grammars, which mainly use word forms to show relationship between words in sentences like "thus" is Old English, have turned into analytical grammars, which mainly use word order as well as function words for the same purpose. Thus, English feels much simpler. The question now is what can be done with this simplified language. The writers of the Elizabethan period demonstrated brilliantly their ability to use this language as a vehicle for thought and feeling. Poetry. The famous poet of this period was Edmund Spenser. He received his education at Cambridge University. There he was influenced by classical works and Old English literature, especially romance and the words of Cocker. Spenser became famous mainly because of this poem entitled "The Faerie Queene." Spenser's original plan was to write a poem consisting of 12 parts books. each of which tells the story of the ups and downs of a warrior who is the personification of an aspect of virtue who struggles against evil. Thus, this poem is an allegory. Spencer was only able to complete part of his Planet 12. Fairy Queen was written in the form of a new famous rhyme under this name, Spencerian stanza. This form consists of 9 lines. The first 8 lines contain 5 stressed syllables and the last line contains 6 hard stressed. The rhyme system is A B A B B A B A A. Spencer's other famous work is Shepherd's Calendar. This poem consists of 12 stanzas, each representing a month, so that the whole is a year. Shepherd's Calendar is a pastoral poem that describes the life of a shepherd in an idyllic environment. Petrarch, a 14th century Italy poet, used pastoral poetry for allegorical purpose. Spencer followed in Petrarch's footsteps in a section of Shepherd a Calendar. Other parts are in the form of love poems. Some are satirical and some are in the form of the flattery to Queen Elizabeth. Indeed, this poem is diverse both in form and content. If we make a comparison between Spencer's work and Goethe's poems, we can see that there are striking differences, even though the two characters were equally influenced by classical French and Italian literature. Spencer was an idealist and portrayed man not as he is, but as he thinks he should be. It likes humor, and its purpose is not to entertain, but to reform. Goethe survived his surroundings and described life as he saw it, while Spencer looked for inspiration in the past and lived in a dream or imagination. To add to this imaginative effect, Spencer often uses unusual or ancient words, making his poems somewhat difficult to understand. During the Elizabethan period, apart from Spencer, there were still about 200 poets whose works were of quite high quality. This proves the existence of a very intensive literary life at that time. It should be noted that almost all of these poets in their daily life are engaged in politics, trade, government, and so on, and writing poetry for them is just a sideline. This situation proves once again that the combination of thought, feelings, and action is the hallmark of the era. The following are some of the hundreds of poets. Thomas Sackville is famous for his poem The Mirror of Magistrates, created by an allegorical character named Sorrow. He made the important roles in British history. Then he allowed each of them to tell their own story, so that his poem could be used as a mirror for the rules of that time, together with Thomas Norton. Sackville also wrote the first British tragedy entitled Fakes and Porks or Gorboduc, and then Philip Sidney has always been regarded as the ideal English gentleman because of his chivalrous qualities as a writer. He both poetry and prose, all of which were published after his death, which shows that he himself did not attach much importance to his literary works. As Chopin and Stella is a collection of songs and sonnets that he created for his ex-fiancée. And then Georg Chapman was primarily a playwright. As a poet, he is best known for his translations of the main classical works, namely Iliad and Odyssey. Michael Drayton was the creator of Polyolbon, a long poem consisting of thousands of lines and describing the cities, mountains, and rivers of England and the fascinating legends associated with each. Prose in the Elizabethan period. There are also 6 of Jane's prose. First of all, it is worth mentioning John Lyly. Published his prose work entitled Oedipus, The Anatomy of Wit. The plot is very simple, namely the love story between Oedipus and Lucilla, who are unfaithful in love. In addition, this work contains a discussion of manners, feelings, and reflection on morals. One thing that is new in this work is that the characters in the story are ordinary people and not extraordinary creatures as we encounter in romance. But at that time, this work was famous for its stylistics, which come to be called euphuism. The styles were too far-fetched, full of exaggerated parables and parables, and used long sentences. Euphuism became very popular during that period, but this popularity did not last long. Another new form of prose is pastoral romance. Its content is pastoral as usual, only in prose. A well-known example of this form is Philip Sidney Arcadia, whom we mentioned above as a poet. This work is also written in exaggerated styles, but this pastoral was so popular that until now the word Arcadia is a synonym for pastoral realm. Picaresque chronicle is the opposite of pastoral romance in both theme and style. The word picaresque comes from the Spanish word picaro, which means criminal. Picaresque chronicle can be seen as a pioneer of gangster novels that are widely available today, because it contains stories of a series of great adventures carried out by bad people or rogues. The story is realistic and the language style is rugged and simpler, although it still uses long sentences as was customary in those days. Thomas Nash was one of the authors of this picaresque story, and his most popular work is The Unfortunate Traveler of the Life of Jack Wilton. The study of classical works that were based during the Renaissance led to a critical attitude towards literary works in general. Thus a new type of writing emerged, namely literary criticism, first in Italy and then in other Western European countries, including England, apologia for poetry. In prose, the first thing we need to mention is Mort the Archer by Sir Thomas Malory. This prose is a romance that revolves around King Arthur and his knights. This work has historical significance because it was used as a source of inspiration and source material for famous poets in the future, such as Shakespeare and Tennyson. The prose is simple and lively and manages to express the mood and spirit of the Middle Ages better than the early French writers. Another prose work that was very influential also among the people was the translation of the New Testament by William Tyndale. This translation established start English and spread it not only among scholars but also among the common people as it was used. It's very searched throughout the country. Tyndale's work was the basis, the authorized version. The Start English Bible published beginning in 1611. Drama, meanwhile, English drama continued to develop. Around the middle of the 15th century, a new kind of drama emerged called moralities. Unlike mysteries and miracles, as a morality no longer saw signs taken from the Bible or from the lives of scientists, but tales of characters who are abstractions such as kindness, crime, making, and so on. The main purpose of a morality is to teach morals, but the element of entertainment is not forgotten. Just as previous religious drama often featured devil as a looking character, so morality often gave evil ludicrous qualities. One of the famous morality, and which is still often played in modern times, is Every Man, which was created at the end of the 15th century by an unknown author. An example of the morals taught is as follows. One day did called every man or everyone to appear before God his friends in the world gradually forgot about him, so only God did. Charity accompanied him to face God. In addition to moralities, a new type of drama appeared in that period called interludes. And interlude is a form of short drama that is not religious, not is or allegorical, but whose purpose is merely to entertain. Although moral opportunities for the author of courses still exist. Interlude is not the kind of drama for the common people, but a drama that is usually shown in the residence of the higher ups. One of the famous interludes is a Fulgens and Lucrece by Henry Medwall. which tells the story of a girl named Lucrece who is indecisive because of the proposal of two boys, one from the upper class and one from the lower class, but ultimately chose the latter. Towards the end of this period, the influence of the Renaissance, which we will describe in the following chapter, began to appear also in the world of drama in England. Classical Greek and Roman works began to be known and accepted. The first Spanish comedy to imitate the classic comedy was Ralph Reister Twister by Nicholas Udall. By imitating the classic model, he manages to create a full comedy, rather than just humorous dialogue around certain situations, as we have seen in earlier forms of British drama. Further description of this classical influence will be given in the following chapter. That's all I can say, more or less. Sorry. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.